Hi everyone, it's Tamara here with another card making tutorial. I was asked by someone to do a Copic colouring of a teddy bear. I didn't have any teddy bears ready to be coloured up, but I did have this little cutie called Stanley. He's actually a freebie. When you use an image from the Mega Winter Bundle from Wondering Wabbit and post a copy of it on Instagram, you will get this little guy Stanley for free. So make sure you use one of those Mega Winter Bundle images and you'll get this little cutie. I'm going to be doing some Copic colouring of him, so it would work perfectly for like any kind of teddy bear stamp that you might have, and then a very simple card making tutorial using pattern paper. So I have Stanley printed on some Copic Express cardstock ready for colouring, and I'll be using some pattern paper from the Baby Mini paper stack, but you can use any kind of coordinating pattern paper that you may have in your stash. I'll be using the diagonal stitch rectangles from Pink Fresh Studio and a sentiment from the So Much Love stamp set from MFT. So I will have all the colours just showing up in the top left hand side, but all of the colours will also be listed in the description box below if you wanted to refer to them at a later stage and have them all written out. So I've gone in with my lightest colour to work out where all my shadows are going to be. So I will have my light source from the top left hand side, and then all my shadows then will be kind of on that right hand side. But we do have a bigger shadow where his two front paws come in over his chest, so I've got quite a bit of shadow in there. So we're going to blend that darkest colour, our shadow colour of W5 out with our E33, which is our darkest brown marker. So I'm just using some nice flicking motions coming up into our lighter space, so we've got a nice area of smooth blend once we get our other colours in. So I did forget his ears, so I've gone back in with that W5, the shadow colour, blend that out with the E33, and now we're back on track with all the colours that we were using for the rest of the image. So the next colour in the that we'll be using is the E31. So I'm just working over towards our highlight space, blending out that E33. Blend that out from his chest and his leg. Now because that chest is fully behind, I won't use the lightest colour in there because that's going to be quite in shadow, so we want that kind of recessed back. So just work up to the highlights that will be at the top of his paws on this side. So we'll blend out using that E30, which is going to be our lightest colour. So blend that side of his face out, and we'll finish with his little paws. Now that we've got our base layer down with all our colours, I'm going to now use the same pens again to do some flicking motions. So I want him to get kind of like a furry look on him, so I'm going to be using the W5 as the shadow colour again to just add some fur. So you just want to go into like the way that the paw's facing, and with this one it does have some lines that Natalie had drawn when she drew the image, so sometimes that really helps where you want to face your lines once you're doing this fur part of the image. And also just make sure you're using different lengths of strokes, so do some shorter and some longer, just to make it look, you know, kind of more realistic fur doing it that way. So I'm just kind of working that W5 out now with the E33, just working in towards the highlight space, just extending those strokes out. The same with his paws, and then we'll come in with the E31 to blend those out as we work over towards our highlights. And then we'll go on those paws again, working into the middle. Same with our little left hand one, and then we'll do our same flicking up from those paws up to our highlights. And then we'll blend that out, so kind of making sure that you keep those strokes as much as possible, but just blending it out into that highlight space with the ends. And again, just flick into those areas to soften those that fur. Now I did realize I'd missed to do the fur in the middle of his chest, so I'm going in with the same colors, the W5, the E33, flicking into where that shadow is, and the E31, And just to make sure we soften that, we'll just do the E30 to soften up to just under where that scarf is. I'm just using two colours to do his tongue, so the E35 to create a shadow and blend that out with the R32. Now I wanted some nice like little pinky ears and pads on his feet, so I've gone in with my shadow colour, the E42, and then just going to blend that out with some reds, being the R30, and then the final colour will be R00. So we've got some nice soft little pinky paws and inner ears. Now we're going to do some pink for his little hat and scarf, but up the top I'm going to do kind of like a stripe pattern, so pink and white. So I've just left two of those blank for our white portions, and the rest will be in the pink. So I've gone with my lightest colour to do our work out where my shadows will be, and now we'll go in with our darkest colour to add our shadows, being the RV95, and just flicking out towards our highlight areas. Our next colour is R83, so I'm just flicking that up into that white space. And then we'll do the same, just adding a little bit of a shadow underneath his chin, coming down where his body will shadow, and down the bottom of the scarf. Our second lightest colour, blending out that R83, will be the R81. Just slowly working into that white, and then we'll go back to that original colour, the RV00, as our highlight colour. So just blend that through into that white, and now we've got our little highlights. Now, as you know, I always like to add a little bit of colour to even white, so I'm using my C's to create a little shadow for my white stripes. So we'll blend that out, and I'm doing the same little dots for our little kind of puff at the top of his little hat. And now, because it is Valentine's Day, I'm just going to add some little hearts to his hat as well. So it's good to add them randomly. So as you can see, the first one I did was kind of like a part of one, then a full one, the bottom of the heart, then the top of a heart, a full one again, and another top down the bottom, and I did miss like a little end of the top. So you just want to do them randomly, so they do look like just like a nice pattern to the material. And we're going to do the same on that scarf, so I'm just going to do the base of one, the top of another, then we'll do a full one on this right hand side, and then we'll do a little bit showing on this part of his scarf, then do one full one, one top one, and a little bit of the bottom one over here. Now I did miss this little fray on the bottom of his scarf, so I'm just going to do that with the white, so just the C3 and the C00. So I've got my sentiment ready to go, and I've grabbed out my Misti, just put in a piece of white cardstock and get that attached to the front of my Misti door. Now, as I hadn't used this stamp before, I'm just going to give it a rub to get rid of any imperfections that might be on there, and use my Versafine black Onyx ink to stamp that, and we'll give that another go to get a nice clear impression. I do allow that some time to dry, and then I'm going to be using the smallest of the Scalloped square dies from Spellbinders to cut that out for my sentiment. So I'll be using the largest of the diagonal stitched rectangle dies to cut out some white cardstock, and then the next rectangle die to cut out my spotted pattern paper. I do also go to do another one out of the second largest of the stitched dies out of white, and then the heart paper out of the rectangle, but in the end I don't actually end up using those because when I put them on, as you'll see here, it covers up that beautiful spotted paper too much. So in the end I actually scrapped that idea of using those two, and going to use some banner dies. So I grabbed out the smallest one first, but then decided I just wanted a little bit bigger to make sure that you could see that beautiful heart pattern paper. So I grabbed out the next biggest of the banner die and run that through my die cutting machine. Now, because it's pattern paper and I wanted to pop it up with some foam tape, I'm also going to run that through again with some white cardstock and just stick that pattern paper to the front of that. So I just want you to make sure that, as you're designing cards, sometimes things might not be working out. So make sure you change things up to make sure it works exactly for how you want the card to be presented. Because until you start to stick things down, you can change things up. So I've glued on the pattern paper to the rectangle die with the stitches, and now attach that to the front of my card base. And as I mentioned, I'm just going to pop the banner die with our heart pattern paper up with some foam tape. So I'm just going to place that in certain spots around there to make sure that's nice and supported. And I've also put some foam tape onto our bear and also our sentiment. So making sure I'm putting that on the right side, I'm going to line that up, and before I push it down, I'm going to just grab my T-ruler to make sure it's even on both sides before giving that a good press. Now we'll be able to add our little bear, which I'm just going to pop down the bottom. So I'm just going to kind of put that sentiment up there first to make sure I'm putting him in the right spot, and then we can get that sentiment attached up on that top corner. And this is the finished card for this tutorial. This little bear Stanley is just so cute, and I think this card, using these papers, could either be used for a Valentine's Day card, which I'm going to use it for, or even like a baby card, or just a card just because. I hope you've enjoyed this card making tutorial. If you have, please hit the like button, and if you'd like to see any future videos, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day. Bye.